Hello! Greetings, everyone! Welcome! It is I, Dracovin, returning for some Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms Random Adventure Builder. It has been quite a while since I've done one of these, and this is my return to form, hopefully. That I'll be getting at least one of these out a week. So, let us start, of course, with this wonderful one that we have right here. I will be opening this pack on stream and then building an adventure with the cards that are in here. That's the plan. That's what we did last time. We're going to build adventure. Going to try to be 3 to 5 levels. You know, we'll see what's in here and use that to determine the level of the adventure. This could be an epic level proportion adventure, which honestly I haven't made a lot of 5th edition adventures. And the thing is, yes, I'm making more 5th edition based adventures, but you could probably adapt most of these adventures to any of your fantasy based role-playing systems. You just have to, of course, change the names of places and things like that. If you don't remember our last one, it was an actually pretty cool adventure that I put together. And honestly, I still make plans to eventually run that one day, that adventure I put together. Let's find out what we have in here first. That's the first thing. Right over here on our side, I gotta put the right direction, we're going to be doing just everything I'm noting. See, hello at the top, right there. So all the notes will be up there, and then over here on the side, once we have cards, boop, they're gonna pop in right there for you to see what cards we're gonna be working with. So there you go, that's what we're gonna be doing as we open up this pack here. So let's start with the first part of this. We'll open the pack, see what we have in here. Then we're going to make a list of the cards over on our side in our little note area where we have the hello. And then once we have that, we're going to start building. We're going to take the lands we have, the creatures we have, kind of as we broke it down before. We took the lands, the creatures, the enchantments, the instants, and kind of built on stuff. You use the creatures for encounters or NPCs they meet, the lands for locations they're visiting, things like enchantments to give things like spells. You know, we kind of build. We have rules for building in here, and we're going to be using those rules. And so I hope I think we discussed those in a previous adventure. You know, we're going to be including everything, the tokens. I threw out the rules just in case, again, as we'll go over them. I went over them last time, talked about them, but you know, I probably will put the rules somewhere. Maybe the basic rules will be in the description, just so that if you want to check out the rules yourself, that's where they'll be. So let's open our pack. Let's find out what we have here. Well, this is an interesting thing. So, spiked trap pit. Does that automatically adjust there? Not really good. We'll have to put those in the thing. So, spiked trap pit trap is the first one. Then we got a paladin's shield. Improvised weaponry. That's gonna be an interesting one. A vampire spawn. Okay, that's a good enemy. A ranger's longbow. All right. You're ambushed on the road. I like that one. That's a good one to use. Contact other plane. Ooh, that's going to be a neat one to use. A dueling rapier. Got a lot of items. An air cult elemental. Neverwinter dryad. Ooh. Brave enfeeblement. That's a spell. That's a good one to have there. Okay. Prosperous innkeeper. A ray of frost. Volo guide to monsters. So Volo is the person we got here. And then we got planes. Okay, that's pretty easy land to have. And the Tomb of Annihilation. Which has, of course, the Atropole on the back here. Oh boy. Let's put together the group of cards here so I can show them off at the side here. So we have, of course, we start with Spike Pit Trap. Then, of course, we have a good old Paladin Shield. We have improvised weaponry. a vampire spawn. I'm just going to quickly get these together so you can all see these cards in better detail on the side there. That's the point of how I set this up here, is that I can have it that I'm talking about each of these. Raider's Longbow. You're ambushed on the road. Contact another plane. That looks like a fun one to have here. A dueling rapier. Just quickly. An air cult. Air elemental. Of course, the Neverwinter Dryad. So basically a Dryad. I mean, we could use Neverwinter Woods, maybe? A Ray of Enfeeblement. Of course, the Ray of Frost, too. And the Prosperous Innkeeper. All very easy to get. The Plains. And then there's Volo. And is Tomb's Annihilation show up? It does. I set it up that all the card types show up. Okay. Now, artifacts. They're important items that could be to the players. Equipment given out at the start. Some kind of loot. We have, honestly, a lot of artifacts here. Let's kind of go over what we have artifact-wise. I'm going to get them out of the pile of cards here, now that we have them here. And let's kind of, like, show off what we have here. So, of course, first off, we have the Spiked Pit Trap. So, again, it's a trap. It's pretty simple. With a Spiked Pit Trap, let's make note of what we have here. Just some, like, notes here. Spiked Pit Trap. It's a trap. Have it in game. That's it. Simple as that. I mean, honestly, that gives us something that our players will encounter. That these Spiked Pit Trap, maybe you want to use more than one. Maybe what you want to do is that there are certain times and certain maps that I've encountered, and, you know, this is a building thing, that perhaps when exploring an area or going towards an area, the defenses that were built there were with a number of Spiked Pit Traps set up. And that, so yes, it's using the same trap over and over again, and yes, they start to begin to anticipate that to find them, but gives a little bit of like a meaning behind it or something. There's ways we can use it to make it more than just a simple trap, and I do think we want to explore that, and we're going to be exploring that. So, you know, we'll talk about that. Now, there are some other things that are a little harder to deal with because we have 3 items. Of course, here we have the Paladin's Shield. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a Paladin's Shield. It's a supposed to be like a magic shield, protective. Maybe got a God's blessing on it. We can play this as like a magic shield. We can play this as like a shield that has like a special ability because a Paladin would have it. There's a lot of ways we can kind of interpret this. We could put this on a Paladin. That might be an excuse here. You know, having the Paladin shield. Putting this on a Paladin. Item or on NPC. So kind of we're exploring this concept here that, you know, we have this. And now I've talked about with how the rules for this, for artifacts and stuff, it's an important item, or items in the game could be equipment given out to the players, could be a big part of sort of a loop they gain. You know, it represents an item for some reason, you know. That's the kind of way we're looking at it. Now, you know, there is the elephant in the room of the Tomb of Annihilation. Now, I put that this is difficult to use, will not be doing the actual pre-made dungeon. We'll use various rooms and encounters to help build this. So basically, there's a trap entry, Veils of Fear, Sandfell Sail, Oubliette, Cradle of the Dead God. So let me just switch to the Tomb of Annihilation. Boom, there we go. You can see it's got all those things on it. And on the back is, of course, the attributable God Horror token. I'm not going to be using that, probably. I don't know. I do want to address this because it is something we talked about. That's why I kind of want to bring it up, that we're going to be using this as a template for our basic dungeon idea. Alright, Ranger's Longbow. Let's talk about that. This thing is, again, like... It's a magical longbow. I feel like with these 3 items, there might be a storyline of there was an adventuring team that went in to do something, and maybe our storyline is going to involve finding bodies. That 3 adventurers went into some form of dungeon, a dangerous one, maybe very similar to the Tomb of Annihilation, where they could very easily pass away or die, where there's a lot of dangers and death traps, and maybe even some kind of powerful undead that they were originally coming into. Now, maybe our team here is tasked with retrieving our 3 items, and each one of these can be found at a different kind of place that's a challenge for them, including, of course, let's get a duelist rapier over here. And each of these is going to be, in turn, then a magic item that they could claim to use. Already we're developing a story here, like a background of something. And we can see that we have the land. We, of course, have a plains. Did I open a plains? I did. A plains. Now, this one says, searching for the vanished caravan that was bound for Silvery Moon, you kind of found a bank of mysterious fog. Now, I use the text on here of these lands to give me a little bit, you know. So, you know, maybe the plot line is you were originally hired to... actually, no. You know what? I'm already coming up with a good story here because I have some things for an opening. I have, of course, Volo and a prosperous innkeeper. So, we got Volo here. Yeah. Volo I might hear here because he's a legend. He's a legend. He's a character in D&D. And the way I've talked about using like legendary creatures, it's a villain. Where it can be the boss of the game, or having influential thing up, you know. I could also do the idea of the legend. In this case, we could have Volo. So, why don't we start with the start of the adventure here? Because I've already have it blowing up in my mind for this very beginning part of here. So we're rolling down the hill here, you know. We've got Volo here. We also have this prosperous innkeeper, which they're putting a different version of it. That like creates a treasure token. So, let's have it in a small, because it's always good for these, small village on a main road on the plain, on a meadow slash farmlands. So that's what kind of we're entering that entire area. Is we got our small village, and why don't we have our heroes having just completed a mission? That's kind of where we're going to lead in. PCs hired to find lost caravan. Successful as return to inn where innkeeper hired them. Fog rolls in. strange fog. I'm just kind of spitballing here some ideas with it. Some strange fog. Gain a reward from the innkeeper. So that's where we're kind of start here. So our PCs in this kind of plains area, this meadows, these plains, these farmlands, had a simple mission of finding a vanished caravan, and they managed to find it. It was let's say it was we'll put successful. Let's interject here. Successfully had been attacked by bandits. PCs had defeated them. And then we'll have then return to the inn where the innkeeper hired them. Fog rolls in, a very strange fog. Gain a reward for the innkeeper. So, our PCs, having freshly been on the laurels of their victory, having defeated some bandits who had gone after this caravan, who was carrying supplies for this inn, where there's this a major trade route. Village on Main Road, so it's a trade route. And the innkeeper has now hired them on, and it gives them a reward, and so that's where we're kind of starting in. This is our opening act. We've now established, our terrain that we're starting in, and we're using this prosperous innkeeper to, these PCs. Even if you're starting this adventure as this group, you're basically saying to them, "Hey, you got hired on by this guy. You just did this thing together. This is probably the first time some of you may have met. You've gotten a hold of each other's abilities and stuff like that. You've got an idea of what everything you can do." So certainly, it sets things up very well. It starts for it very easily. I've got some ideas that would do a lot of these cards too, which is great. This is a good set of cards, I feel like. Like the spell and stuff like that. The spells, I can do things with these. The way that they set it up more than that. So, now we've established our prosperous innkeeper, our plains. Now we bring in Volo. So let's switch back to Volo. Because guess who's now in the inn? Volo. So we have Volo visiting the inn. Hears of PCs. Buys them a drink. Introduces self. And offers them a job. And here's where our plotline comes in. Previously hired adventurers to explore an old tomb never returned. Wants to recover either bodies or special items to give to loved ones. Technically, he also wants you to explore it too, but it's on the pretext of regaining the 3 items. So we've already established the thing of the quest. There's a tomb, not a tomb of annihilation, but a dangerous tomb, that our set of PCs have now found themselves stronger by defeating a bunch of bandits to recover these items. And of course, there's a couple of things along the way, and I have an idea of how to use the Elemental, the Dryad, the Vampire Spawn. I'll use them. And we have to start using our other cards here, because we have to build this thing here. So, since this is going to be a small adventure, the idea will be that we're going to have some traveling, which we have here ambushed on the road, and you'll be going to a forest where the tomb is. Where maps, you're going to seek out a Dryad who can help you find the entrance to it. So you see, we're using these cards well. And of course, the 3 items that we're going to be reclaiming from the tomb from different rooms, and we can use some of the rooms mentioned on here to come up with rooms that these items might be in. And maybe these things are very difficult enemies, you know? And of course our spike trap. Because there's a trapped room, the trapped entry, and we can have the spike trap in there. Or, you know, we can come up with some things to do with it. I've got some ideas there. But let's build on what we're doing here, because we feel like our things of... we now have an idea of what we're doing with everything here. Our spike trap is part of the tomb. Our items are in the tomb. And I'm going to have the Vampire Spawn and the Air Cult Elemental related to the tomb, too. And then the Dryad and Ambush on the Road for traveling. Now, I have used the entire thing of finding a guide before. I did that last time. So I think this time the Neverwinter Dryad can be a different form. I've got an idea of... We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I think I should talk, before I get into the rest of this, what I'm going to do with my 4 instants. Improvised Weaponry, Contact Other Plane, Ray of Enfeeblement, Ray of Frost. Let's look at each of these individually and see where we can kind of put them. So this is, you know, anything can be used as a weapon if you swing hard enough. The rise deals 2 damage to any target, create a treasure token. Now the thing is, I think, this one's a little harder to do. Because it's something that PCs do. They improvise weapons. This is not something that, you know, is done for them or forced on them unless they get into weird situations. We can get them into a weird situation involving the tomb. Maybe a trap, which, you know, robs them of their weapons somehow. That kind of thing. That's not easy to do, to force them to use improvised weaponry. So the thing is, use of improvised weaponry could be, honestly, something related to the people in the tomb. Perhaps what we can do is say that of the 3 items that we're coming to reclaim, maybe there was 4 PCs in this group. 4 people. Now let me just go back up to the top here and kind of put our level. I'm feeling, if I don't drop these cards, I'm feeling level, 2 to 4 right now. Right now. We're gonna play that by ear. So, Vampire Spawn, now looking it up, is a CR 5. Meaning that if I would be to go to here, Vampire Spawn, I could have this, if I'm doing 2 to 4 levels, as one of the opponents for them. For like a major boss. Now the Air Elemental, maybe I'm making it less of an enemy and making it more possibly an enemy. Let's explore some of these things here. Perhaps we use Contact Other Plane with the Air Cult Elemental. Now, this is this includes it's the Elemental Evils, so it's like the Temple of Elemental Evils kind of stuff. But I think I can combine those 2 together. I feel like I can for my story. And the improvised weapon, I think I'm going to make this a 4th person. Someone who's found a way to stay alive and has been trapped in the tomb. And when our PCs arrive, they're in battle with something. Maybe the Vampire Spawn is doing battle with them. And this is our PC's chance to rescue the person. So now, we still have 2 more. a Ray of Frost, and a Ray of Enfeeblement. The thing about Ray of Frost is it's a cantrip. It's not a lot. It's not very powerful. It's pretty simple. This version of it, actually a lot better. You know, if you look at what this card does, let's switch over to it here. Enters the battlefield, it taps a creature. Turn creature's red, it loses all abilities. Doesn't untap during its untap step. Gotta be honest, that's a lot better than the normal Ray of Frost. And even Ray of Enfeeblement, well, that's pretty good. I could set up 2 more traps related to these things. Now the Ray of Frost, as I'm showing here, rather than the Ray of Enfeeblement, the Ray of Frost, maybe make a different ice spell. Or some kind of ice-based trap or something. And it's based upon the Ray of Frost. And what it does. Let's look into that. So that's why, let's look into those as being part of this set of traps. That the crypt is trapped more than is inhabited by undead. So maybe you have to deal with traps more than anything. That's the thing is, there was a lot of monsters there. They've been defeated. The traps were avoided. Maybe that's what these characters did, or the traps reset. And they've reset since these heroes from before went through there. So now we have our innkeeper in our plains, hiring you originally, Volo hiring you now, and our characters heading out to the tomb. So, I think we have to address these two. You're ambushed on the road, and Neverwinter Dryad. Our tomb is coming along. What's there, what you're doing there, that kind of thing, it's coming along. But the trip there, it can't be uneventful. Let's start with the ambushed on a road. This is an easy one, and I think it's a very interesting one. Let's do a long road to tomb, through woods, ambushed by the remains of the bandits the PCs had fought before. Hey, those bandits that were established that you fought right before the adventure started, they're back for revenge. What's left of them found out about you, found out about what you did, recovering the caravan they'd stole, killing a bunch of their members. Maybe some of them were out banditing and came back and were able to find out and track you back. Assumed you were working for that tavern and have been following you. Found your opportunity, finally, to launch their revenge in ambush. It does say, hand over your loot, no one gets hurt. Maybe these are bandits that are out for revenge now, and they're after you. Let's show you're ambushed on the road. I think that's a good part of that there. We're going to have bandits, remnants of those bandits we defeated as part of our intro, coming back for revenge. It adds a little bit more credence into that part of the adventure that the PCs didn't do. You know, you could easily have that adventure before you do the rest of this. That could be their first level, their second level adventure that's leading them into the level that they are now. You know, that you could have gained a level or two doing that adventure before doing this. Now the Dryad. I feel like the Dryad is useful to address the PCs. Rather than the Dryad being a advisor, I think the when rest before tomb, Dryad approaches PCs, warns of vampire spawn and ritual it is doing. So the vampire spawn is your boss, basically. The CR5 creature. Honestly, this kind of draws me back towards what we were saying for our levels. Maybe level 2 to 3, honestly. You know, we're going to maybe do 2 to 3. So maybe we use third-level characters, and the vampire spawn's indeed very difficult enemy. It could be very elite in comparison to what it is. But maybe it's trying to do a ritual to summon a powerful minion from its evil god, contacting another plane and summoning an air elemental. So maybe this is related to the story that's being kind of told. That now, not only are you recovering the treasures, but you're stopping the vampire spawn, and it's summoning. That could be a way of doing it. But now you have the Dryad, warning you. I think it's a good use of the Dryad. Making that... The PCs could still be aggressive to the Dryad, and it really won't matter. They won't be warned about it. But they could also be friendly with the Dryad. So you could do battle with it, but why would you want to? Especially if it's coming in peacefully? I don't know. It depends on your PCs a lot of times. But this is a good use for the... Neverwinter Dryad, if I can get to it over here. There we go. See, popping it on screen when I'm talking about it. I'm trying to remember to do this pretty good. I didn't do it very well the first time. Now I've done 5 of our cards pretty well. I feel like our story is actually coming along very well as I'm kind of building it. And I feel like I like this one too. This is a very interesting story. And we're using the Tomb of Annihilation, I think, pretty well. So, let's look at the Tomb. Let's look at Tomb of Annihilation again. We talked about having to use these different parts of it. So, Cradle of the Death God is where the summoning happens. We're not going to be summoning in Atropal. We're going to be dealing with Air Elemental. And the thing is, I think that the final kind of boss shouldn't really be the vampire spawn. It should be the Air Elemental in a way. A very elite Air Elemental, like a huge, like one that's very powerful. That the ritual to summon it and as a minion of whatever this vampire spawn's god. Maybe the vampire spawn worships the elemental evils and is trying to summon this air elemental. And so you have to disrupt it then, and you learn about it from the living person, the rogue. Because we have a paladin, a ranger, and a fighter, maybe. The dueling raper could easily be on a fighter, like a dex-based fighter. Or, wait, how about paladin, ranger, bard? Rapier feels very bardy. You could have rapier on the bard, but the rogue survived. So a bard could be the arcane caster of the group. The paladins are melee and kind of a little bit of healing, so is the bard. The ranger is the ranged, and then you've got the striker and the rogue. That's a pretty decent team. And so now we've developed our team. The team of PCs. I'm going to note up here, paladin, ranger, bard, rogue. There we go. So, Tomb of Annihilation. We know about the Cradle of Death God. The Oubliette. Discard a card, sacrifice an artifact, creature, or land. Onto the trapped entry, I think we should do the Ice Trap. And for the Oubliette, we should do the Spiked Trap. The Veils of Fear. Maybe we'll do that for the Brave Enfeeblement. We'll put with that. And the Sandfall Cell will have where the Rogue and the Vampire Spawn are doing their battle. And we'll have it that it's not going to be as straightforward as each of these things. Each of these things would have claimed a life. Let's see here. The Pit feels like something that could have claimed the life of the Paladin. Fell to their death. Got trapped. The Ice. Perhaps the Ranger. The Brave Enfeeblement. And what we're going to build off of that, the Bard. Each of these rooms that you're going to kind of face, and these might not be the only rooms you want to do in this place. We've talked about building a dungeon before, and I'm not building a full dungeon here. I'm building parts of a dungeon, the important parts of a dungeon. I'm building the concepts of a dungeon. more than anything, like I did with the monastery. And I think these 4 rooms, I think these 5 rooms, reflecting the 5 rooms in the Tomb of Annihilation card, are going to be the main things that are in this tomb. Maybe you want to do more dangerous rooms with some more undead or some other traps or things like that. Some skeletons, some zombies, minor minions that might be existing under the vampire spell. Those could always be built in there. Or other ancient traps that are part of the tomb, as your PCs explore. But the idea is, each of these 5 rooms in the Tomb of Annihilation, now we have a concept behind what we want to build them on. We have things that are going to be in these rooms. We've made the right steps towards this. So I think the tomb, and we're going to do trapped, tapped. Trapped entry is going to be ice trap, claimed ranger life. And again, this is the form that the trapped entry used to be. We're not going to be the trapped entry anymore. The trapped entry is going away. But we're still going to be using it, in a way. So let's look at what we want to do with this. How we want to design this room. So we know that the ranger lost their life here. The question is, how? This place claimed the life of each of this rogue's friends. So I think what the major thing is, let's establish why they could have been that. In true entryway of tomb, old trap used up. Fear. No, fear might not work on a paladin. Illusionary. Confuses targets. And then, trap doors. So have a room where the illusion's gone off and hasn't reset. We can have it had, because one of them survived. Our rogue. They were the only ones to overcome it. So, rogue overcame illusion, went down main stair, not trap doors, disabled trap. So there's runes in that room that are marked of illusion. There's a bunch of trap doors, and 3 of them are used. That 3 of this rogue's companions fell victim to the illusion. The rogue managed to overcome the illusion, but not before their 3 companions, our 3 friends, were lost. Trapped somewhere in the tomb, in various places where they were sent to basically die, in the defenses of this tomb. And they did. And the rogue never found them. The rogue was never able to reclaim their friends, and was looking for them, and then got trapped themselves. And that's the story. A sad one. But now we've explained why and how these 3 warriors could have died. They basically set off some of the most deadly traps in this place. These traps are disabled, mostly. So, what do we want with the Ray of Frost? We want it to be a trap that would have killed the ranger, but be mostly disabled. A room that they could find with the ranger and their longbow. A ranger frozen in ice, frozen solid in the ice. Ranger, frozen. Body, encased in magic ice. Bow nearby, on ground. Dropped. But this room shouldn't just be everything easy. The Ranger absorbed the majority of the attack. But they're still cold. They're still rays of frost. Let's say there are 4 crystals. Use ray of frost on targets in room. Have HP / AC / disable as trap? What do you want to do there? The thing is, like, I feel like this is a difficult thing because in 5th edition it doesn't show up a lot, this kind of, like, inanimate objects. I haven't really encountered a lot of things. That you have target items. So how do we want these? A trap? A trap that can be disabled? Perhaps. That these each of these crystals is a trap in and of themselves? Or they're things to destroy. Targets that have AC. Maybe 2 of them are destroyed. Yeah. 2 already destroyed. Other 2 have objects, HP / AC. I would have to look up the rules for attacking objects. I haven't looked that up in 5th edition in a while. Confession there. But the idea is that the use rays, door close behind, lock, unlock when crystals gone. So the idea is the Ranger couldn't pick locks. And managed to realize what these crystals were the things that were hitting with rays of frost. A little too late. Managed to destroy 2 of them before finally succumbing to the rays and freezing solid. And being enchanted in this frozen ice that's probably really difficult magical ice to get rid of. It's a simple ray of frost. Dying to it apparently in this room chills you. And the room probably is covered in magical ice. And it's cold. You can have that. Cold, ice-filled room. So your PCs merely have to disable 2 of these crystals. And they're a group, not individual. And then the door open. Or they can pick the lock. But now you've been able to retrieve the Ranger's bow, which he dropped by chance. Maybe you want to use the Ranger's bow. Maybe we have the Ranger's bow be magical flaming or something. Magical fire bow. Sure. So it can be useful against these crystals. Because maybe fire is the way to target them or something like that. You could have that. The target maybe fire does extra damage or something like that. They're weak to fire. Yeah, there's a lot of ways. Vulnerable to fire. A lot of ways we can kind of like put this together. But we've got the basic idea of it down. We know the fate of the Ranger. Trapped in a room. Frozen. Gone. And so, now exploring the tomb, one of them has been freed, in a way. What do you want to talk about next? The Bard or the Paladin? Bard or Paladin? Ooh. Talk Paladin. Because we're back to that spike trap. We started out with spike trap. And we're going to go back to the Tomb of Annihilation and link it back to the oubliette. It's an oubliette is like a kind of prison. A place to fall. So, I think this one is going to be more of a test of skill rather than disabling a trap or something. So, Paladin ended up in room with pit trap. special one. Spikes on bottom that retract and go back out over and over. The body's been mutilated beyond belief. The spikes continually go in and out at the bottom of the trap, making it hard to climb and hard to deal with. They're constantly being impaled. A true death trap to anybody that falls into it. Something that the trap, in fact, is partially set off. Trap partially set off. Broken sword in door, keeping it open a bit. Shield jammed in corner out of where spikes are. Armor and body destroyed. So, they find a room where the paladin fell into. While crossing the room, from the original trap, the illusion, fell into the spike trap. Tried to use their sword to keep it up. Their sword broke. The only true magical item the paladin had was their shield. Their sword and armor were just normal. Fell into a trap where the spikes just kept hitting, and the paladin was unable to escape them, and eventually succumbed to the trap. In a deadly spiked pit. Truly, this spiked pit trap was the worst of them all. I made it a super elite one. Super deadly one. The paladin's shield. It's still there. And so the players have to figure out a way to get down there without unjamming the... must go down without unjamming trapdoor. Get shield. Avoid spikes. Be creative. I can think of a couple of ways that they could go down there. Someone could actually try to go down there. They could try to use disabling, like the top trapdoor of it. Lower rope of some kind. Try to fish for the shield. But they retrieve the paladin shield then. And so, that'll be a magic shield. Magic shield. AC bonus. Divine blessing of some kind. Again, when I actually would do this adventure, I would maybe make it of a certain deity that one of the PCs has, perhaps. So we'll call this, let me go back to Volo, not Volo, Tomb of Annihilation, there we go. So we can probably delete these right now, because we've figured out what we want to do with these. Veils of Fear. That'll be our next one here. So, our bard. What are we going to do with the Veils of Fear? Array of Enfeeblement. Well, that drains strength. I pull out my player's handbook. Good old player's handbook. Let's look up Array of Enfeeblement. Because there's a reason that you have one, or you would reference when it'll arrive, because I want to know exactly what it does in this one. It's a second level necromancy spell. Only deals half damage with weapons into strength ends. So it makes it that they do half damage. I think we're, again, we're going to do it like similar with Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost, I actually used Ray of Frost. But this one, it's going to be more than just a Ray of Enfeeblement. That it's a illusionary maze of monsters. Of shadow monsters. Illusionary maze of shadow monsters. Attacks deal effect of Ray of... well, let's go back to Ray of Enfeeblement so I can spell it here. There we go. And, is it negative energy damage? Oh, necrotic damage. Necrotic damage. That's what it's called. Necrotic damage. So, our bard got stuck in the shadowy maze and fought their way through it. And, I think they managed to basically destroy the heart of the maze. Got to heart of maze, struck blow, damaging the trap mechanism. Hard. So, it's an illusionary maze of shadow monsters that whose effects deal the Ray of Enfeeblement, weakening you, and then do necrotic damage to you, slowly eating away at you. Another terrible, terrible, deadly trap. Something that would be much higher level characters than NPCs. But the trap has been damaged. The illusions don't fully form. I gotta figure out if it's a damaged trap and they still have to make their way through the maze. So then they have to navigate maze. Deal with partial illusions. Either Ray or necrotic. Less damage. Destroy heart. Claim the rapier. Bard. Body. Horribly corrupted and decayed by necrotic energy of damaged heart. So something kind of like heart at the center of this. Something that's generating the magic for these illusions and stuff. And Bard managed to get to it and deal a devastating blow to it. But in the process, died. Lost all their strength. Finally ended. Their rapier still embedded in heart. The rapier still embedded in the heart. Magic, more crit. Sure. So the was magical, does more crit damage. So it's like each of these people died heroes trying to overcome these traps and did a good job of causing damage to them. Half of the Rays of Frost were destroyed in the ice one. The pit trap kind of opened, not as effective as it was. The shield kind of like keeping it from like fully extending out. the heart of the illusionary maze, struck a deal. Struck a blow. So no bodies to recover, but 3 items, each important to these people. They're magic items. They're doing pretty good. Telling a really interesting story of some NPCs that the PCs would never meet, but they can see the results of. And this is an interesting thing that echoes maybe their own heroics and stuff like that. So, improvised weapon and a vampire spawn is a pretty simple one. We go back to the tomb. Sandfall cell. The rogue trapped. Another death trap, but managed to disable the death part. Not the trap part. Ring of Sustenance. Is that still a thing? I'd check that. Ring of Sustenance. 25. I think did that. Frog God Games did a 5e Ring of Sustenance. Honestly, I always liked the Ring of Sustenance. So, I might just have it like... Rogue had ability to not need food or water. That's it. We're not going to say Ring of Sustenance because, again, like they aren't technically core 5e. They have been. It has been introduced in like some other books from other people. But like, and there are things that do that, and like whatever, like a species or a class feature or something like that might give you sustenance ability. So we're going to kind of just say that Rogue has been okay. Have a reason for however long they've been here. They had enough food or water. Maybe they have a bag of holding that was filled with a lot of supplies. They've been working at it. Lord, vampires spawn in to trap with them. PCs either fall into trap or hear sounds of combat inside trap. Sand pit leads to room that then fills with sand. Empties once is filled up to repeating over and over. So it's basically this kind of sand pit trap. It's almost like a quicksand that leads you down into a smaller area that then fills up with sand. And then the thing is, it's going to assume when it fills up with sand, it's basically murdered anything that's in there. Because there's not an easy way, like it's just filling up to the top and kind of like it's just filtering into that spot. There's not really a way to get out of it. And then it just empties it out and does it over and over again. Rogue made constantly filter out. So basically, the rogue managed to get it that the sand is just filtering out all the time. It's not filling up. There's still trapped down there, can't get out. So the PCs either could get trapped in there, or could maybe like throw a rope down there or something. Help out rogue fight vampire spawn. So, the rogue, you know, still was able to observe stuff, and maybe, Arcane Trickster. Had a little bit of magic knowledge. Used magic to learn of vampire spawn. Used magic to trick in with them in hopes that either would kill vampire spawn or trap in there forever. The hope was that if the rogue could kill the vampire spawn, get rid of a very powerful and dangerous creature that's in this tomb. If not, it'd be trapped down there. The rogue doesn't have a way out. Vampire spawn probably doesn't. That was their plan. But you can come in and help. Rescue the rogue, defeat the vampire spawn. Learn that the rogue, using their magical abilities, maybe some divination, illusion, or something. Maybe have like a divination, rogue, either divination spell or item, learned of vampire spawn plan, or PCs learned from Dryad. So either the rogue will tell them stuff, or they learn from the Dryad. So this is the point in time where if the PCs were violent to the Dryad, they'll learn, or if they were friendly with the Dryad, they can inform the rogue. Now, we go to these two. Contact Other Plane, Air Cult Elemental. So, we're in our last part here. Cradle of the Death God. Ritual Site. Either complete, then fight Elemental. Powerful. Or disrupt and stop, or contact being themselves and convince not to interfere with this place. Kind of give them an option. Like, have one of them like roll like Arcana, or like if they don't get a roll of Arcana, you could also be like, there's some books that are probably the vampire spawn. They can study them and read up on them, and that you have them learn that there are 3 ways that basically they could possibly do things. They complete the ritual and summon whatever it's trying to summon and try to fight it. The ritual is going to probably complete on its own. Ritual will complete on its own if not hurried up. So it's like there's a period of time that this ritual will happen, where we now have our vampire spawn who's been in contact with another plane, trying to summon something. And you can either then summon the Air Cult Elemental, defeat it, and then the ritual's done. You disrupt the ritual so that you don't have to worry about this being summoned. Or you could convince the divine being that's being contacted to yeet off and not come along. And, you know, I think any of those 3 would be possibilities. And maybe your PCs can come up with something else. And once they've stopped the ritual, defeated the vampire spawn, recovered the 3 items, rescued the rogue, leave the tomb, return to Volo, inform him what was going on in that tomb. The rogue leaves the PCs, take their friends' stuff back to their proper places where they can either have funerals or give them to a family, something like that. The bodies couldn't be recovered. It leaves our PCs. victorious. Return to Volo. Rogue, go off to bury / give items to loved ones. Follow, reward, NPCs. Especially interested in ritual and what being summoned. So, like, Volo will probably pay you for, like, the books. Volo is a very interesting person. Not necessarily a bad person. But I don't know him perfectly. But I think we just ended our story. On the, air cult elemental here. When did I turn that off? So, we can tell a story now. We've got it. We finished it. So a group of PCs, having completed a mission of recovering a lost caravan from some bandits, returns back to the innkeeper that had hired them. The innkeeper, of course, rewards them because they've returned with the goods that he needed to continue his trade here in this small town on a main road. It's Trade Village, where a lot of travelers and a lot of trade travels through. But it so happens that there is a man, Volo, who asks the PCs for help to seek out some lost adventurers he had hired to explore a tomb. So, the PCs head along, where they are ambushed along the way by remnants of the bandits they had defeated. Further on, as they have to rest for the night, before arriving at the tomb, in the forest, a dryad approaches them and warns them of the dangerous vampire spawn and its dark ritual. Arriving at the tomb, they find out that there had been a very powerful trap in the entryway that seems to have sprung on 3 of the 4 lost people and then been disabled. Exploring the tomb, they come across, of course, these 3. The first one, the ranger, his lost arm, lost bow, having been defeated by rays of frost, freezing him solid. Next up, of course, the pit. The dangerous pit to claim the life of the paladin. Shoving their shield, move on to the next one. The deadly, weakening maze of illusions, where the bard managed to strike a blow against the heart of it. PC's finishing off. And the final trap, the one where the rogue, who now is just using, lost their weapon in the sand, is using just probably like improvised something or other to try to fend off a vampire spawn in a trap. Having saved it, the PCs figure out how they must finish the contacting of either plane, either to convince the creature, fight it, or disrupt the ritual, and prevent the powerful elemental from being summoned. Powerful and dangerous one. And of course, return back for reward and job well done. This is a pretty dark story, but it's a good story. And I think it's an important one that we've now told. We've used all our cards well. We even used the Tomb of Annihilation well. I think it's another great adventure that we've written. Another good one. So, I think that's where we end it here. I thank everybody for joining me for this one. For another random adventure builder, where we took 15 magic cards and built a D&D adventure. Feel free to use this one. Adapt it. And as I said, I will probably run this one at some point in time on stream, hopefully. Just as maybe it's a 1-shot or 2-shot. depending on how it is. I'm going to run all of these at some point. I hope you enjoy watching them when I have them up. But for now, I'm going to get going. I'm going to say thank you, everyone. Remember, check out all my links. I stream most days during the week on Twitch. It's a good chance to reach me. It includes the games, D&D and Pathfinder games I run, which should be coming up more on the channel. Hopefully I'll be getting back to uploading those. At a little bit of an expelled rate, I will do that again. I'm going to try to get to the point where I just upload the previous weeks in the week, and I catch up. I'm not good at catching up, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do that and get back ahead of the curve, so to say. I don't think there's any other major updates for the channel, but expect more of these. I'm going to try to get out one each week. So, until that next time, though, folks, and enjoy your roleplay, and farewell.